terminal.
RCP chamber pressure looks good.
Doubling up. Roger, roll, planet.
Water towers can fly! Yes!
Tango Delta nominal.
Flight outside SCE off. Say again, SCE off. Off.
Yikes. You bet. Concur. We don't need any more of these.
Yikes, you bet, concur. Good morning, good evening, good afternoon, good night, wherever you are around the world. Welcome to another episode of NASASpaceflight Live. It's Sunday. We're doing our thing. We're out here. I see the 5x5s in chat. Thank you, everybody, for confirming that you can hear me loud and clear. But yeah, it's a Starbase Q&A episode of NASASpaceflight Live. And it's not just me, Jack, Beyer, but it's also my friends. Alex, what's up, Alex? You're here today, huh?
Yep, I'm here. I'm all ready and excited to be here another week of NSF Live. This time with views from a Starbase. I really like it. It's like a Raptor Site Plus, right?
Right? Yeah. Plus, no, this will be a good one, and it'll be good to sort of review what happened last week because oh my god, so much happened last week. And then also kind of look ahead to what is going to happen in the next week or so. I have thoughts. I have some thoughts. And also joining us for today's episode is Mr. Chris Gebhardt. Chris, what's up?
Hey, it's going well. Happy to be here to talk about all the things that happened this week. Because as you said, Jack, my goodness, there were a lot.
Yeah, often things simultaneously happening, which is just like I need to put my head on some sort of swivel, and I need like 6 more screens.
Yes,
But,
exactly.
but yeah, you can see there's ship 24. We were looking at booster 7 earlier. They're both at the launch site. They both seem to be being prepared for more testing. So we will get into that here in a little bit. But
Can I correct you on that?
Go ahead. What?
You said Booster 7 is out of the pad. It's actually in the Mega Bay.
Oh my god,
now.
you're right. We were just looking at the empty mount. I'm brain dead. Drinking more coffee. That's right. Booster 7 is in the Mega Bay getting its Center 13 engines. So we were just looking at it. What's wrong with me? But yeah, if you guys have any questions at NASASpaceflight, and we'll see the questions pop up in our chat. You know the drill, how it normally goes. That is what we will be doing here for our Q&A. But I don't know. Do we want to just start going through the link stock, sort of step by step?
Sure.
Yeah, works for me.
Let me find it because I lost it. Here it is.
Well,
there we go.
Yeah, well, I mean, so the big thing last week that was kind of new and different, other than the booster finally static firing, was sort of the dual flows of both ship and booster at the same time. We had testing double header is kind of what we called it, right?
Really was, yeah.
We had
Oh, go
Who
ahead,
goes?
Alex. Sorry, yeah.
Okay, me first. We had on Monday, actually, that both Monday and Tuesday we had double header with both ship and booster. And on Monday we had spin prime tests on both the ship and the booster. We saw 2 spin prime tests on the booster and 2 spin prime tests on the ship. Both on the booster were a spin prime test of just 1 engine, and the 2 on the ship appeared to be at least 6 engines. Then on Tuesday, we move over to 2 static fires. That's when we also had a double header, but this time, again, as I said, with the static fires. First was the single engine Raptor static fire on Booster 7, and that was on the orbital launch mount. We're seeing here footage of the spin prime test, right? There we go. That's the ship spin prime test that happened on Monday. There were 2 of them. And something that we noticed, it was also present on previous ship spin prime test, but also you can see near the T0 time, you could see like a spray, like a vent going upward on the side of the vehicle. And that was sort of what actually told us later on Tuesday when the static fire was going to happen.
Yeah, it's
And
almost like that vent that like it was like a wispy, like upwards traveling vent, whereas everything there you can see it on the left side just by the flap. It's like it's going upwards where everything else is going downwards, and it reminded me in a lot of ways how uh, with the Starship low altitude flight tests, how the engine chill vents would pulse like 15 or 12 seconds right before ignition. This is kind of a similar timing, different, different optics, and maybe even a different source. Who knows? But yeah, it's nice to have that indicator right before firing once again, to look for, because it's like, oh, water deluge is on, the vapor is flowing upwards. All right, let's be quiet and wait for this thing to fire. I wonder if that will remain going forward and be like a new standard thing we can sort of count on, or if this is just a sort of a transient type effect.
Oh, interesting. Yeah, like is what we're seeing more of the, yep, this is the design we're gonna go with, or is it, yep, still developing, so don't know.
Yeah, like when we see Ship 25 out at the pad and undergoing similar testing, will Ship 25 exhibit the same behavior?
Exactly. Yeah, that's a good question.
Because each one of these ships is like artisanally handcrafted, like one-off kind of. They're working towards mass production, but each ship is has its own quirks, and same with the boosters, right?
Oh, 100% still at this point. Yeah, I mean, I wouldn't expect to see that sort of uniformity for quite some time at this point.
Alex, did I interrupt you? Did you have more to go? Please continue if I had so savagely ruined your flow there.
no, it's okay. It's okay. I can just continue with the flow. And so that was on Monday. We saw two spin prime tests of both the booster and the ship. It was first the ship, and we were actually knowing already by the time the ship spin prime testing happened that booster 7 was getting prepared, because we saw all of this action happening on the tank farm, the Orbital tank farm, coming up to life while ship 24 was doing its thing, right? And then we saw later that they also spin prime test just with one engine. And another thing that we saw on this test this week was the addition of like a new vent system that they have added to the overall launch mount.
Yeah.
And that seems to be related with the engine chill. It seems like it pops up when the engines are being chilled down for either the spin prime test or ignition, as we saw later in the week. And it also seems differently, like different vents come up depending on the different engine configuration
Yeah,
for the
it's
test.
based on what we've seen so far. It wouldn't be
Mm,
shocking if the entire perimeter of the orbital launch mount has many of those
yeah.
vents, and when there's a 33 engine something, we would see all of them active. You can see one there in that shot,
Mm,
um, right before it cut. But yeah, we started off by seeing two sort of facing the camera on the first day of testing with the booster, and then the next time they tested it, it was sort of on the like rotated around the perimeter of the orbital launch mount there. But you can see that one of those engine chill
mm,
vents right there. And talking about sort of the same thing with the ship, it's nice to have another indicator, something to watch
yeah.
and look out for. Because Adrian pointed out that those sort of peter out. What was it, like 10 or 15 seconds
Yeah.
before a firing is what we've seen so far. So we watch those vents, we wait for them to shut off, and then we shut our mouths. At least I try to, uh, while we wait for the engines to fire. So that was really cool. Please continue.
No, yeah, that was totally cool. All the explanation and everything, that was really on point. And yeah, once we saw those things just fading out, it just fades out, and then boom, there's something going on like 10 or 20 seconds later. In this case, it was the engine spin prime test. But then on Tuesday, we had the opposite. First, it was the booster, then the ship. And the first thing that we saw, I'm trying to give Patrick a little bit of time here. The first thing that we saw was actually, again, the tank farm coming up to life and everything. We saw, um, all the vents and everything. One of the things that actually tell us that something is going to happen with the booster on the OLM, on the orbital launch mount, is that there's like a vent that happens for like a couple of hours, and then after that it stops, and then that kind of signals that there's like this um excuse me, there's like this flux of propellant into the vehicle. And after that, we saw again all of the engine vents and everything. And finally, the static fire test, which let's see if it happens here on the video.
Yeah, the
Try
vent you're
and-
talking about is the
There you
one
go.
that's sort of 180 degrees opposed from the camera position. It's on the back side of the vent,
That
back side of the
the
orbital
one
launch
that you
mount
can
from
see.
this view. Yeah.
Yeah, that one that you can see right there.
And so when that stops, when that shuts off, that's kind of another one of those indicators like, oh, maybe the GSC. Well, hello, honking raptor.
There you go.
But it seems like maybe a chill down of the ground support equipment or something along those lines. But yeah, it's nice to have things to watch out for. Sounds like we're
It's
gonna get another
probably
static fire replay here in a second.
yeah. I'm gonna shut my mouth.
Does, any,
There you go. Go,
does
Chris.
anyone ever get rid of hearing that sound? Like I
No.
love hearing engine startup sounds and shutdown sounds. They're really, really cool to me.
Agreed.
I hope they
think
are to
we have
everyone
a
else.
video about that.
Yeah, we just-
do we? Was I
We
hitting
just-
the nail right
Yeah.
on the head?
Yeah, we just put a video out with a whole bunch of raptor honks that came out yesterday. So, mods, if you have a link handy, throw that in chat, please. But it's a super great video Patrick did.
Nice.
So we have a bunch of questions coming in. Are we sufficiently recapped, or do we have more?
I think we're already okay with that. Let's keep the questions coming. Let's see.
I mean, Booster 7 did its thing. It did the long duration firing for like 20 seconds. They took it off the
that was
launch mount.
Thursday.
They rolled it back to the production site, and Elon tweeted that they're going to install the Center 13 engines. So that's sort of where we're at, right?
Yep. You're right. Let's
Cool.
keep the questions coming.
Well, which question? The one about are they going to fire all 33 engines? Because that's what people want to know now that there's going to be 33 engines installed.
Well,
Is that the one you meant?
whatever questions we have on the queue.
Okay, let's see. Here's one from Greg Hawk. Well, you know what? Let's just start off with the question I just asked. Do we think they're going to do a 33 engine static fire?
Chris, you go first.
Yeah, I have my doubts about that one. Just because just because of what it might mean in terms of needing to have the fully stacked Starship and the fully fueled Starship on top of it, and I don't know. It's a lot of engines. I would be very curious to see what the thought process would be of, why not static fire 20 and then the remaining 13 and do it staggered like that? Maybe that's a better way. I have doubts about a full 33. Alex,
go.
Okay, I go. I think they might be able to do a 33 engine static fire test, just not in the current configuration of the orbital launch site. Like, I don't think many of the things right there are prepared for such a violent test, because even one engine, we saw the scorched legs of the orbital launch mod, which was like just one engine, right? And so it's like imagine 33 of them. That's gonna be crazy. And I also wonder if they're gonna be using deluge system, for example. Like, is that also gonna be on the cards for such a energetic test? So yeah, I think in the current configuration maybe not, but probably with enough additions of hardware, it might be doable.
gotcha.
I'm gonna say maybe, which is not really satisfying. I could see them doing it. I've
Okay.
heard a variety of different things as to whether or not they could do it or couldn't do it or what they would need to do it. At this point, I'm just like I have no idea, but it's plausible. It's plausible that they do a 33 engine static fire, but we'll just have to sort of stay tuned this week and see what happens. But we've got a bunch of really good questions regarding all of the stuff that we just talked about. Let's start with this one from Bill asking, why do you think they are adding back 13 Raptors on B7 when so far they only tested one at a time? Why add that center 13 back in. If we didn't see them do a 20 engine static fire with the outer ring. We didn't see them fire clusters of Raptors at once. What do we think's going on there? Alex, you go first.
Okay. Well, that's a good question. I think, as I said last week, when they rolled out Booster 7, someone asked, well, a lot of people ask, why do you think they're rolling out the booster with just 20 engines? And one of the things that I said was that was like a quick solution just to test it already. The booster, like, it already has enough engines, right? It's like 20 engines, okay? That's good enough to just put it out on the pad and test it a couple of times and bring it back to the Mega Bay for completion of all the systems, right? And and actually, I think that still rings true to this day, because especially from what we've seen, they've only done again 2 spin prime tests, 2 static fire tests with 2 different engines, but that was it, right? They didn't do any sort of 20 engine static fire test, any sub component of that, like 10 engines or maybe 5 engines, or maybe 4. Like, they only did 1. So it seemed to me, especially the one on Thursday, Elon pointed out at a test of the autogenous pressurization system, which makes me think that what they did was basically like an early testing of the booster in static fire, in static firing conditions, to be able to address potential issues leading to a launch, for example. So once you do this testing, maybe you are able to address whatever issues may arise from these things back at the Mega Bay. And so that gives you early insight into the booster, how it is controlled and how it is, how it responds and everything. Like, that's sort of the thinking that I have now after all of this testing that we saw this past week. That's sort of what I'm thinking now. You can see there on the right, Booster 7 on the Mega Bay, and on the left, the long duration static fire test. I'm gonna shut my mouth for that.
Honk.
Oh man, that was just that was so awesome to hear, like, live when it happened. That sustained roar. Oh yeah.
Yeah, Elon tweeted that they were going to do a long duration test, and we're all like, long duration? What does that mean? Like, does it mean a minute? Does it mean 10 seconds? And 20 seconds, that was really something. I think that might be, to answer somebody's question here in chat, Johan saying, is 20 seconds or 21 seconds the record long for Starbase test fire? I think it is. I think that's the longest.
Well, ground static, it might be.
Yeah, I think so. I think it is.
Yeah.
In terms of ground, like,
Held
obviously
down.
Starhopper flew for longer, and all the starships that flew for longer, but not flying, like being held down.
Yeah, being held down. I think that's right. Yeah.
Super nifty.
And
Good
the
question
pictures
from
we
Johan.
got too that Nick and Mary captured from this were just
Yeah,
There
we
was
have
one.
we have Prince in
Oh.
the store. Poke poke. We have Prince in the store. Go to the store.
Oh
Get
yeah.
some Prince.
Yeah, if you like these
Yep.
and would love this adorned on your wall, we got it for you. Oh, and who doesn't love this?
little baby SPMT.
Yeah, your friendly neighborhood SPMT. Yeah.
Oh, now I want to be friends with an SPMT. Let's see here. Tom the Toad is saying, do we expect that the concrete pad will mostly survive the upcoming testing? I'll just jump right in and say yes.
Yeah.
I mean, it could get roasted for sure, but yeah, Mr. Burns, yes. But no, we've talked about this a little bit on past streams, right? Where it seems like, or at least we hope that SpaceX has built the orbital launch mount high enough off the ground that by the time the plume sort of reaches the concrete, maybe some of that energy is just dissipated. Like the layout of the orbital launch mount is very open, and it's almost like the Saturn milk stool kind of situation where hopefully the concrete will fare decently due to the distance of the Raptors away. But I mean, 33 Raptor engines, if they end up doing a 33 engine test and it goes just like straight into the concrete, maybe it wouldn't survive quite as well. I mean, we know that the concrete's already pretty charred from the testing that they've done already, so maybe the distance that I'm hoping is helpful is not enough. But yeah, I would expect it to survive, but I also would not be surprised if we see some chunks of stuff flying and they end up putting a big steel panel there or using some sort of like they dump a bunch of water around. I don't know. It's really it'll be really interesting to see how that all plays out. What do you think, Chris? Do you think the concrete will survive?
I hope it survives. But sort of like what we've seen and what you were saying there, Jack, is like we've seen some different elements of that before, right? And they've certainly gotten better. Don't get me wrong on that, but I mean, just blasting straight down at that concrete. I mean, it's obviously reinforced enough to take the build of the orbital launch mount and the orbital tower there. But will there be no damage? I don't. I don't know.
And
We'll wait and see.
it's like what do you classify as damage too? Is just
That too.
charring? Does that count as damage or
I'd say no.
Yeah, to me that's like basically cosmetic. But I'm not a concrete onomer, so I don't know. Like maybe charring leads to spalling, which leads to cracking. Like I don't, we need to get somebody who's well versed in the ways of concrete. Maybe like
Yeah.
Grady from Practical Engineering. That would be a good one. Maybe I'll send him an email and be like, hey, dude, question mark, because I'm curious. I'm curious how the concrete pad will survive. We saw with SN8 and SN9, sort of rupturing and cracking and flying bits of martite, which was a coating on top of the concrete there at the suborbital side. I wonder if they're using martite at the orbital side or some other compound. Alex, what do you think? Do you think the
interesting.
concrete will survive?
Well,
It sort of depends
not
on
sure.
on what kind of tests and how many they do, right? Like if they do multiple 33 engine static fires, I'm gonna say no.
Yeah, I'm not sure it will survive without some kind of like. I'm still thinking a deluge system might be needed, even if it's like a minimal deluge system, just to keep things in check, so to speak. Like not to
Yep.
fully dampen out things,
Yeah.
but sort of like a minimal,
Just something.
just in case kind of deluge system. You know what I mean?
Yeah, I
That's
think
actually.
we've only ever seen like one test that could have been a deluge system, and it was more like, I think Nick described it as a grocery store vegetable mister or something like that. Like not really a deluge.
Yeah.
So I mean, I wonder if like at a certain point the concrete gets gnarly enough, they just roll out a bunch of hoses and dump a bunch of water manually on the ground. Like I don't know, because we haven't really seen anything in terms of
Yeah.
in terms of a deluge, but it certainly still seems like it would be useful.
For example, the deluge system at these orbital pads is just like a hose with a bunch of water, but it's not like the water that you will see, for example, at Falcon 9's Launchpad, or even LC-39B for SLS, or like this water, kind of cascade of water coming into the vehicle and onto
Yeah.
the base. Like that's not the thing that you see at the suborbital pads. It's just like a stream of water coming up from a hose, and that's it. And I'm thinking that might be related with protecting the concrete beneath the ship, just to be able to avoid any sort of SN8 incidents.
Yeah, it's not like the rainbirds you see at all the other pads where it's like massive amounts of water just dumping and dumping. But yeah, I wonder how that's gonna go. Good question there from Tom the Toad. Let's see here. Really quick, I don't want to get too far behind. Musical Wolves, thank you for the support. They are asking what the welding on the pad last night was for. I have no idea. Anybody have any idea?
No
Me
idea.
neither.
Okey-doke. Sorry, Musical Wolves, but thanks for the support. Alessandra, thank you for the €5. Dave Wolf, thanks for the support. Gifting 5 Red Team memberships. If you just got a Red Team
nice.
membership, pop into chat and say you got one, and also pop onto the YouTube community panel and enjoy all of your sweet perks you get there. Super enjoy seeing people who otherwise wouldn't have the membership program get the membership program because, hey, they might stay members if they like what we're offering, which we certainly hope you do. We do a lot of the stuff for members, like on behind the scenes or just early access type stuff. So that's really cool. Jim Cabot gifting a Red Team membership. Thank you, Jim. Clint Galloway. What's up, Clint?
Oh,
Always
Clint, hey man.
Always enjoy seeing your name pop up in chat. They say exciting times ahead, rocket, rocket. I will completely agree with that, Clint. I cannot wait. I don't think any of us can wait. It's gonna be awesome.
Oh no, there's too much excitement. There.
Musical Wolves, thank you again. They say love the Raptor honk cow at the end. I've seen a lot of people saying they like that. Good job, Patrick. And Flawed Perspective saying eating crow pie, B7 not rolling out today. What is the throttle range of Raptor 2? Do we know anything about the throttle range of Raptor 2?
I assume it's probably close to what it is on, or what it was on Raptor 1. I believe Raptor 1 was somewhere between 50 and 100%. And Elon mentioned they were kind of working on lower throttle settings down to 40 or 30%. So I don't know, maybe it's a little bit wider for Raptor 2. I have no idea.
Yeah, the number I had in my head was
Yeah.
40%, but I don't think we
Yeah.
think we know now. Who were you gonna say we should ask, Alex?
Elon on Twitter. Come on.
Yeah, that would be a good ask.
Everyone.
Let's see. Some more questions. You guys, keep your questions coming in. We're getting some real good ones here. Here's one from John Lynch. Do you think the orbital tank farm and all related pumps and systems are complete, or does SpaceX still need to add equipment? Alex, go first.
Oh, we actually saw, I believe it was yesterday night or in the morning. I do know that it was probably yesterday that I saw from the SBL operators. Shout out to them. Great job that they do and everything. And they sometimes, they comment about the things that they see on the cameras. Most of the time I miss them. But they were talking about the pumps being removed and things like that. We can see some of those on one of the cameras, and they were like removing one of the pumps again. It was like, again, they're removing pumps on the tank farm. They were kind of removing them and then replacing them or doing some kind of work. It's a little bit complicated to tell because it's a little bit far away from the cameras. But yeah, it was like they're still not done with that with that tank farm. It's like so much work that they're doing right now, and I'm wondering if they're just upgrading it to be able to do a full propellant load. Like, can you imagine loading so much? Like, it was like, I think it is 4,600 tons of propellant, and Elon was saying that it will take about the same time as Falcon 9, so about half an hour to
Which
load
is insane.
so much. Yeah, right. It's like
Which is insane.
super
Yeah.
insane. You need a lot of pumps to be able to move that. So I wouldn't be surprised if they're just upgrading the heck out of the tank farm just to be able to load all of that in upcoming tests for the booster and the ship.
Yeah, we've got. I mean, I'm just going through the questions here. We've got a
Yeah.
lot of really good ones. I have no idea if it's complete or not, but like you said, we've seen them swapping out pumps and stuff.
Mm.
In my head, I imagine like they just like accidentally hose a pump, like tear it up tear up some of the insides of it. Like, oh, whoops, we ran it a little bit too hard. Let's throw another one in. I'm not sure, but like, if ship and booster were ready today, do we think the launch site could support a launch, or do we think there's still more that needs to be done, like ground side?
Oh,
I
more that needs to be
think,
done.
yeah.
More needs to be done ground side still.
Mhm.
Yeah, definitely.
I mean, any thoughts on what in particular?
Well, I think it's a lot of what we've already seen, right? It's a lot of exercising your ground systems, ramping them up to be able to handle the full load of this. Because remember, they haven't fully fueled anything yet. They haven't done a full stack full fuel on the orbital launch site, which means that the sort of arm that reaches over that you can see there on the tower hasn't really fully been exercised to its full extent yet. You haven't tried multiple engine ignitions yet on the orbital launch mount. There's a lot that just hasn't been done from the ground side. Yeah.
Mm. And also,
Alex, would you
just
add
before,
anything like majorly specific there or anything?
yeah, just before anyone mentions, I haven't seen it on chat, but before people mention, hey, but they did a full load on ship and booster like many
Yeah.
months ago with booster 4 and ship 20. That was actually one of the last tests that they did with that pair of vehicles. But that was like, I remember that cryo test was for hours. It lasts like 2 or 3 hours. You need to load the same amount, but in like 4 times. Like four times as quick. So it's no doubt that they have been improving the tank farm ever since and doing modifications to the pumps and everything. But yeah, it's crazy.
Yeah.
I don't think it's ready just yet.
Sort of a
I
related
believe it.
question. Go
Oh,
ahead.
I was about to say just one thing. I'll believe it is ready when it is actually ready.
Oh, come on.
Once we
Come
see it
on.
ready, once we see
But
it
how
actually
but how
doing
will you know it's
the
ready?
things, well, I don't know, but once it is doing the things that it needs to do, then I'll say it is ready.
Okay. Got it. Here's a sort of a related question. Vibjorn is asking, after this week of testing, do you think orbital flight will happen this year? So I notoriously I've gotten to Boca for testing way early many times because I just sort of
Oh.
get bit by this bug where I'm like, it's about to happen tomorrow. And
Yep.
then I think for Starhopper I was
It's a
there
9.
for like weeks at one point. Yeah, or SN9 I was there for months. It was a whole thing. So to me, my answer to this question, do I think orbital flight will happen this year, is absolutely. I'm thinking September.
Oh yeah.
But but maybe people are disagreeing with me there. I mean, to me, once they get the booster out on the pad and they fire the whatever remaining static fires that they're going to do once they install the center engines, it's like, what do they even need to do next? I mean, just eat it, just go, just launch that thing. So but I again am notoriously overly optimistic. So I don't know, Alex. What do you think? Let's ask you first. Do you think orbital flight will happen this year?
I think it has a chance, but my current estimate is November, December for that probable first flight.
It seems like such a long time to me, given that the booster is like they're static firing the booster, they're static firing the ship. Well,
It
what could
is.
possibly take that long?
Yeah, right. But still, it takes a long time to be able to ready everything. That's actually some of the things. Um, I believe last year there were people saying, "Oh well," but they have a stack booster 4 and ship 20. They are ready for flight, right? It was like they
Yeah,
haven't
fair.
they have done a test, so they are ready. It's like, well, they have done one of like 1,000 tests that they need to run, and still they weren't ready because they actually were succeeded by more capable booster and ship pairs, which is booster 7 and ship 24. So just because they are doing testing doesn't mean that it's ready. It'll be ready, and it could take anywhere from a month or 2 to 4 months. That's sort of why I'm expecting somewhere around November and December. I know that's not on Elon time. That's like Alex time, I guess. Elon time will probably say like late September or somewhere around that, right? But that that is probably why I'm thinking November, December, because probably Elon time is like, in a month or so, we're gonna launch this thing. Obviously, he also has the famous 2 weeks kind of thing. But yeah, I I will say that there's a lot of things that could go wrong. Like there could be another explosion, and let's face it, it could be a thing, right? Um, but it could also go everything super great and still find minor issues. Like you're going to get ready for a static fire, the static fire happens, but it happens like 1 week delayed, and then there's like another thing and another thing. It's sort of what has happened with many rockets before, where even though things are going smoothly, they are not going according to plan. Like they're not going right on schedule because you encounter things in the way that kind of trip you. The schedules get delayed and everything. So even though tests might be nominal and or nominal, they could still be delayed by a lot because of minor things that get in the way. So yeah, like right now they're installing the 13 inner engines. They could be having issues with, I don't know, the shields or whatever things they might be doing right now, right? And there could be issues with that. They might be, I don't know, they might have been expecting a rollout on Monday, right? And then they have issues with the shields, and they're like, well, maybe on Tuesday, right? And then they encounter some other issue, and they're like, this SPMT is broken down or whatever, and there's like a 30-minute delay. There's always these so minor things that always delay things that, even though they are successful, they just kept being delayed because
So
it's how it goes.
Yeah.
So yeah, you're just thinking repeated small delays because
Mhm.
that's how testing works. I mean, that's what testing is for, right? Like you're trying to catch all these little issues, and having not gotten an orbital flight out of Boca Chica yet, they're
Yeah.
still in the process of working out all the bugs and kinks. I guess that makes sense.
Yeah.
Chris, what do you think? Do you think an orbital flight happens this year?
I do, and I'm kind of with you in a way there, Jack. I'm kind of thinking it's going to be a little bit earlier than or a little bit sooner. I think October is honestly when I'm sort of looking at it right now for when it might happen.
Cool. Well, we're all on record. You can hold us again. You can hold it against us or hold us to it or whatever.
Of course, I was on record in May of last year going, "There's no reason they'll stop flying."
Yeah.
Yeah,
Oh
right?
man, I'm still bummed that they stopped flying. That was like the coolest test program ever. We're not gonna ever get something like that again. I mean,
I know.
Just wait
them
until the 18-meter diameter Starship. They'll do it again.
Ah,
that would be amazing.
that would be amazing.
Matt Croc, thank you for the support. They say, remember when I said I would super chat later a few days ago? Well, I'm back. Well, thank you, Matt. Jim, thank you for gifting another Red Team membership. And Todd, thank you for becoming a Padrat member. Super duper appreciate the gifted memberships and the people becoming members. We hope you enjoy all the perks. There's a whole bunch of different perks. You get members only emoji, which we need to add some more emojis. I forget if we've filled all of our slots or if we'll get more slots when we get more members. But either way, we enjoy the emoji. I mean, we've even got some grackle emoji here. I'll just threw some Marses in chat. I just threw some grackles in chat. But yeah, there's not just that. At Capcom and above, you get Discord access. You get I think what is it at Red Teaming Up, you get various preview stuff on YouTube before the daily videos go live, and photos and stuff from Nick and Mary. And I think when I drove back from the SRB test in Utah, I did a time lapse of the entire drive and posted that up there. It was like kind of behind the scenes sort of thing. So all kinds of stuff for our members. Thank you everybody for becoming members, Todd, and all the gifted memberships. Super appreciate it. Memberships help us do what we do. Couldn't do what we do without them. Let's see. Aaron is asking about the 13 center engine install and how long it's predicted to take. I wouldn't be surprised if it was done or close to done and they roll out on Monday or Tuesday. Alex, what do you think?
Entirely possible.
Or,
Yeah.
No, Chris, go first.
Yeah,
I mean,
go first.
yeah, it's entirely possible. I mean, what they got 20 engines uninstalled and reinstalled in a couple of weeks, right? So, isn't that right, Alex?
I had a prediction on Friday of when I will see this rolling out. I said maybe not this upcoming week because they need a lot of things to be completed before the static fire testing and everything. But I don't know what to think now because, Elon tweeted also the video of we're installing the 13 engines, and, with Elon at the helm, you never know, right? They could be like, let's roll this out on Monday. Like they could just be rolling out
Shield at
this
the pad.
tomorrow.
We'll do the TVC
Yeah.
at the pad. We'll just roll
Yeah,
it
let's
out. Yeah.
do everything at the pad, and I don't care. Like, roll this, and that's it. There we go. The video it was a quick video, actually eclipsing Booster 8, which is right behind it. I actually was saying on the Raptor side that we did on Friday for the rollback of Booster 7 that I was thinking that maybe Booster 8 will roll out on Monday, and then they will take this week just to test Booster 8. But no. Now I'm probably more banking on Elon being like, go ahead with Booster 7.
Yeah. I feel like at a certain point, maybe it was when they switched to Raptor 2, they sort of like, it's almost like they have a speed loader or something, like they're able to install Raptors a lot faster than I feel like they were doing in the past. So yeah, maybe the 13 engines are installed, but now they're doing things like TVC or like heat shields or shrouds or what have you. Could be
Yeah.
a variety of things that would cause them to take more time, but like physically bolting the engines to the booster, I feel like shouldn't take that long at all. Though of course there is the fact that the center 13 are way more complex than the outer 20 because they have all the gimbling hardware and all that. But good question from Aaron.
Really is.
Yeah. Matthew Shea becoming a Capcom member. Matthew Shea, as I just said, you get Discord access at Capcom and above. So pop into the Discord and say hey, and we will greet you appropriately. Thanks for becoming a new member, buddy. Araflow asking any news on a possible flame deflector for the orbital launch pad. I can answer this one. No, not yet. Anyways, so far we're staying the course. We'll see if anything happens in regards to that.
Yeah, it doesn't seem like it.
Dark Ace is asking, how long do we think the booster static fire campaign will last, given the milestones we saw achieved this past week? That's a really tough question to answer with any sort of authority or certainty, but we can certainly guess.
Yeah.
It also depends on what flow exactly SpaceX is thinking of following and what flow they actually end up following. I mean, they could continue incrementally and do 2 engines and then 2 different engines and then do 4 at once and then do 8 or something along those lines, and like test ever increasing numbers and clusters and things like that. Or if they want to go like hyper aggressive, they can just go straight to 33. And if that goes well, then hey, they're ready for launch, right?
Right?
Question mark. So yeah, it really depends on what the campaign itself looks like, but I'm gonna say by this time in September, by September 14th, the booster static fire campaign will be complete, and that's just me completely guessing and wanting it to be so. But yeah, I'm gonna go with a month. What do you think,
ambitious.
Alex? You clearly disagree. Go ahead.
Oh yeah, I agree more with the static fire test campaign is gonna end like a week before the launch. Like it's gonna be super close to the launch.
Yeah, that's why I'm saying
actually
September for launch.
Oh yeah, right. You're on September camp. Well, I'm thinking more like late October in that case then.
Okay.
Yeah. Not that I don't think the 33-inch static fire, by the way, I think it could probably be done earlier, but I'm feeling like there's probably going to be a need for multiple of them. Let's put it that way.
Interesting. Okay.
Yeah.
Huh. Chris, how long do you think this static fire campaign with Booster 7 will last?
Yeah, I'll go with it'll end up being 4 weeks, but that's not going to include the time that it's back in the production facility under getting engine install. So like last week was 1. So I'd say if everything keeps going well, probably about 3 more weeks of like booster testing. So that's different once they want to stack the ship on top of it, to me.
Yeah, that's a whole other thing I guess I hadn't considered in my predictions and discussions so far today, is that once the booster is successfully static fire complete, like once they're happy with all the data they've gotten from static firing the booster, they no longer need to static fire it. What does that then mean happens when they stack a ship on the booster? They're going to have to do a whole other set of static fire tests with the ship on top. I'm curious. I wonder.
I mean, you'll probably want to do cryo tests. You'll probably want to do fueling tests. You're really going to want to exercise that upper arm. You're going to want to make sure like your thermal analyses are correct when you actually cryo fuel the entire vehicle like that. So yeah, I mean, there'll definitely be some visual tests that will happen during full stack, I'd imagine.
We've got a poll in chat. How long will the static fire campaign last? And there's 1 week, 2 weeks, 3 weeks, or longer. Something tells me longer is going to take the cake on this one. Although people might meme it out and just do 2 weeks because 2 weeks. I always thought that was a weird spoilers. Okay, spoilers for Total Recall. I always thought that was a weird scene in Total Recall because like
wasn't it?
he's kicking butt and taking names, and then he like allows himself to be anyways.
Come on, Jack.
What?
We're not in film time. We're Starship time now.
All right. I'll turn off my film. I'll try and turn off my film brain. Well, good question from Dark Ace. Let's see. Josh A became a Capcom member. Josh, you get Discord access plus all the other perks below Capcom. So enjoy the Discord access. Pop in and say hey. I'm like keeping an eye on chat to see if anyone has Total Recall theories.
Love it.
Thendis Nye is asking, how loud might 33 Raptors be? Is that a consideration in Launchpad design? I think the answer to the second part of the question is certainly. You want a Launchpad to be robust enough to survive the acoustics of launch. I mean, just look at some of the dailies with the orbital launch mount being constructed back at the production site. That thing is built like a battleship. Like it is. When I think of the construction of the orbital launch mount, I think of a battleship. Just insanely thick metal, just super robust. So yeah, I do think that is a consideration in Launchpad design. I mean, they call it rocket science for a reason because you're considering lots of different complex things, and that's totally one of the things that I would expect to be considered. As for the first part of the question, how loud might 33 Raptors be? We saw a little bit about that in the preliminary environmental or the programmatic. I forget what the P stands for. The PEA, the environmental assessment documents.
Programmatic environmental.
Thank you.
Yes.
Yep.
But it's not like world-destroyingly loud, right? The way that these things scale is it's only a couple decibels louder than I forget what they compared it to. Was it a little bit louder than like what they were already generating with ship?
It's kind of like that. Like the easiest way to explain it is to basically use the other big rocket that we've got coming up that we are almost, oh my God, just about 2 weeks away from, 15 days away
2
from.
weeks.
It's the opening of its window. So for example, SLS will do 8.8 million pounds of thrust at liftoff, whereas Starship will do 16. So you might go, oh, double the thrust, double the sound. But that's not how sound works. So like appreciably, the difference between 8.8 million pounds of thrust and 16 million pounds of thrust in terms of the volume, the acoustics that are going to be generated from it is not double. It's like if it's not doubling, it would be like 1.3 or something like that instead of a double, if that makes sense.
Yeah, that makes sense. Beep, 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 beep. Good question from Thendis. I hope I'm not butchering your name there, buddy. Outdoors Man Show is asking, any updates on the claws? I assume they mean the lobster claw thing on the ship QD.
Yeah, Alex, when's the last time we saw those? It's been a while, hasn't it?
Yeah, it's been months, and we haven't seen any developments. I mean, I think the answer is no update, but what do you think, Alex?
Oh, well, yeah, I don't think we have seen anything. It's really a mystery how they're going to be doing this because we saw on Ship 20 and Booster 4, they used the clamps at first, but then they removed those and they did a test with Ship 20 and Booster 4, and they only used the chopsticks. So I'm now wondering whether we're going to see that on launch day. Like, are they going to be using really the chopsticks to keep in the ship in place? I feel like that would be crazy. But then again, crazy is all about Starship, right? Yeah. I was about to say before, now that we're seeing it right there, the launch mount is tough, but Starhopper is tougher.
Starhopper is literally the toughest thing at the orbital at the entire launch site or vertical launch area, if you want to call it what the FAA documents do.
Yeah.
Masked Dingo in chat says the best claw is no claw.
There you go.
Let's see here. Here's one. I'm not sure. Yeah, there's Starhopper. What's up, buddy?
Yeah.
I missed the
Immortal
times
Starhopper.
when there was no big wall there and you could just see underneath Starhopper. There's like a little picnic area. That was kind of fun.
See, I'm gonna love when flights start happening again because, like, when the ships were trying to do their things at first before SN-15 succeeded, it would always be like carnage and destruction, and then Starhopper's eyes would turn on, like, "What did you do?"
I love it. Yeah, I have multiple photos, many photos from the low altitude flight test campaign of explosions happening like next to Starhopper. It's like Starhopper doesn't care. Starhopper never cared.
Yeah.
What a beast!
It was and it always emerged stronger.
Alex, do you remember what is the tank wall thickness on Starhopper? I remember it being like something insane, like 12 millimeters. It was like 4 times as much as we currently have right now with like the 4 millimeters. I think is that.
Yeah. Three times 12 millimeter, compared to 4 millimeter.
Which is just insane. It's like the chunkiest thing ever.
Yep.
Okay, yeah. Here's a really easy to answer question, Chris. I'm gonna let you take this and run with it. It might be like a 5-minute answer, but here we go. Zach is asking, are we going to cover the Artemis 1 launch?
Oh my goodness gracious, yes we are. Yeah, Zach, the laugh is actually not a laugh at the question. It is a laugh at all of the planning that is going on behind the scenes for it. Oh yeah, there will be a lot of coverage from us of Artemis 1, aside from our normal launch broadcast. Yeah, we're gonna have a lot, so just stay tuned. Don't quite want to give it all away just yet, because we're still 2 weeks out. But yes, we'll have a lot in the run up to it. So not just launch day on the 29th, but in the couple of weeks running up to it, we'll have some good stuff as more and more of our teams start to arrive in Florida.
Can't wait.
See,
I love the question. It's like we're just gonna say, yeah, exactly. Like, what are we gonna say? Nah, we don't really like giant rockets. We don't like things that are shuttle derived. Like, of course we're gonna be covering Artemis 1, and we're gonna be doing the absolute best job we can at it. Whole team is rolling out in force. Go ahead, Chris.
I mean, the real question we've got is just on launch day, we're going to have to pre-measure the distance between ours and like Tim Dodd's setup, so that when my scream is heard on his, you can like do the math on the distance. Like
we should just start a third channel that's like a joint channel between Tim's and ours, and it can just be called like Space Freakouts, and all it is is a camera on your face and a camera on Tim's face, and that's it. That's all it is. 10 tweet.
I'm going to be jumping up and down and screaming my head off in absolute sheer excitement when SLS is solids light.
I'm going to be shaking.
Oh my god!
I already know. I'm going to be literally quaking in my boots.
And don't worry, Jack. If your body doesn't naturally cause the shake, the solid rockets will.
It'll be first one, then the other, because
yes,
yay, neurochemicals. Let's see here. Good question from Zach, though. We'll be doing our absolute best to cover Artemis 1 with all of the necessary diligence, because it's Artemis 1. Say what you want about SLS. It is the start of our next moon program, of which Starship is a part. And that is super exciting. Like, imagine going to see the first Saturn V launch. Like, holy cow. That, like, really, or the first shuttle launch. Like, this is a big moment. Even if SLS only ends up flying, like, less than 10 times, or, you know, whatever number, it doesn't matter. Like, this is a huge event and milestone. I remember talking about essentially the exact same rocket as SLS back since I was in, I want to say, like, middle school or like early high school. Like, so the Constellation program. I mean, come on, it's been a long time coming.
Exactly. Like, I know a lot of people would go, Chris, come on, not quite. But, you know, while the SLS program has been around since August of 2011, so exactly 11 years this month, the SLS is from the Constellation program. I mean, it is just the Ares 5 with 4 engines instead of 5, given a slightly different paint scheme. Like, that is exactly what it was. So yeah, I mean, this rocket has literally existed in some way or another since 2004.
Yep. Yeah, it's wild. I cannot wait for Artemis 1. But I think that's enough Artemis 1 talk for now. I can tie this in though. Thanks for the question, Zach. When do we think we'll get a Starship with like an HLS prototype? Like when is the first like NASA wormed like moon lander prototype Starship? When will we see that? Will that be like Artemis
Yeah.
17 or something?
So gosh, not Artemis 17. So the Starship HLS has to be around for Artemis 3, which right now is 2025, 2026, probably more realistically. And the biggest thing about this is they have to do a full up demonstration of the mission uncrewed. So just like they did demo 1 uncrewed, demo 2 crewed, that's basically what this is for the lunar landing program. It's first one uncrewed, second one is the one that you rendezvous with Orion, put crew on Artemis 3, and go down to the lunar surface. So if you back that up, you're probably going to be wanting to do that demonstration about a year ahead of the actual mission, right? Based on when Dragon did its DM uncrewed test flight, based on when Starliner successfully completed its versus when it might fly. We're all sort of within that, few months to a year, right, to give enough time for the data reviews. So if you back that up, I would start to expect that probably around 2024 at this point.
Makes sense. So wait, are we like nomenclature stuff? If it's an SLS flight, we're going to call it Artemis and then an integer. What if it is a Starship? What if it's a Starship flight? Like, does it not get called with a human landing system type deal going on? Does it not get called like Artemis and a number? Do we call it like maybe Star Artemis?
Oh, that would be funny. No,
jeez.
to my understanding of this, no, the Artemis designations are for the SLS rockets. So
Got it.
Artemis 1, SLS 1, Artemis 2, SLS 2.
Patrick.
I was going to say, wasn't sure why we were laughing at that, but okay.
Yeah.
Something that Patrick did. Okay. No, those designations are sort of for that, and then the Starships will get their own, very much the same way that for ISS crew rotations, right? It's just Soyuz MS-22, Crew 1, Crew 4 if it goes on a Dragon, and I believe the Starliners are just Starliner 1, Starliner 2, Starliner 3. They get different designations that are internal to their sort of things, but they're part of a larger commercial crew program, if that makes sense.
Yeah, that makes sense. Neat. I like it when I just abandon the question queue and just ask my own questions. Go ahead, Alex.
The reason why I laughed before was because Patrick just said on the back channels Artemis 3-2, and I was reminded of the Starlink namings that they have.
Oh gosh.
Crazy. Artemis Group 320 something.
I mean, hey, it's not out of the realm of possibility. Don't joke about it, otherwise it'll actually happen.
Yeah. Could.
Let's see. John Deppner, thank you for becoming a Capcom member. Pop into Discord and say hey. Matthew, thank you for the support. They say Starship looks like an orca, horizontal. No disagreements here. In fact, I have tried to use one of those AI websites to make a Starship whale, but it didn't quite work out well. In fact, it was awful.
Oh my gosh.
Which reminds me, in the member Discord, I'm going to throw a couple shuttle and train abominations that I made using the same AI thing, because that's kind of fun. And anytime we throw these in chat, we get pretty hilarious stuff. But yeah, let's see. Blake White, thank you for the support. They say no question is very excited by the recent testing regime, and the next few weeks to come gives me something to look forward to every day. Right. I'm glad you're excited, Blake, because I know we all sure are. Varangia? Thank you for the support. They say, I know we aren't hoping and expecting it, but what would be the move if something catastrophic happens during launch? Fully fueled Starship Super Heavy and a QD fails or something like that. Could you talk about some of the fail points? I mean, Raptors could fail on liftoff. There could be like a structural failure of the booster or ship itself under whatever kind of load, although they've been testing for all of this stuff. There could be there could be a QD failure. I mean, heck, it could bump into a chopstick somehow, or like who knows. There's so many things that could go wrong, but it's just it's not really fun to think about that, huh?
It really honestly isn't. Yeah. But there are, I mean, but yes, I mean, the basic reality of that is, yes, there are several things that could go wrong. Yeah.
Alex, did you have any thoughts?
Well, I said it before. I say it right now. There could be things, bad things, going on. Yep.
I guess if we want to get specific, I mean, like the separation mechanism, just hinging them apart like that has never really been tried. You really got to make sure you've got no thrust coming out of the back of that booster. For recontact, you've got some things potentially like that. I mean, the Raptors are brand new. The propulsion systems are new, so that's a potential area that you would want to look at. The autogenous pressurization systems you would want to be keeping an eye on, and I mean, none of those are to say they don't have experience with them, but if you're asking what are some of the more likely failure points, there's that. And I mean, I think for a first flight where the heat shield hasn't really been put through the entirety of the test that maybe, that they definitely want it to, right? It hasn't undergone the entire ascent profile under the type of Q loads that it will be experiencing in the max Q loads and everything like that. So making sure the thermal protection system stays on is a big thing. Those would be off the top of my head. Alex, you got any others there?
I think you touched basically on all the points that I will touch in terms of the risks there. Yeah. Like there could also be many things that we don't know about. I believe for Falcon Heavy, Elon was talking after the mission happened that when they were loading the rocket and everything with the propellants, he was like listing off the top of his head like all of the things that could go wrong and the
Yeah.
explosions and things like that. Like I cannot I cannot think what things he might be thinking of the day this thing launches. Like there's probably so many things that could go wrong and level the pad or something like that. Like yeah, that's that's gonna be a big deal. Even though it's test flight, right?
Yeah, exactly.
A failure wouldn't be the end of the program, obviously.
No,
And
just
like
set things back a little
certainly
bit.
yeah, it would certainly not be the end of the program. Like this program has seen failures everywhere, but that's actually how SpaceX has been progressing, right?
Yep.
It's just like you
Yeah.
wouldn't want that failure to happen right off the pad. If possible, that failure could be as late as possible, right?
Yeah, that would
That's
be
the thing.
like in the vicinity of the pad or any kind of pad fallback. That would be like worst case scenario. But like you said, it wouldn't be the end of the program. I'm gonna run through some more of these real
Yeah.
quickly. Thomas is asking if I'm going to Florida for Artemis. Yes.
Yes.
Brent is asking, are they still working on an improved deluge system? Any flame trench diverter we can't see in the videos? We don't know. We haven't seen anything in regards to either of those or any of that stuff. We'll just have to wait and see. Chris K. Cannot wait for the Artemis mission. Also be down in Florida. What's up, Chris K? One of our SBL
Nice.
ops.
Yep.
That'll be interesting for you because I know you were just at Starbase, so you'll have like the contrast between the two. Matt Kroc, thank you for the support. They say the payment is for Jack to say giant rocket go burr during SLS stream. Also, this includes you to ping me on Discord when you do it. I make no promises. But thank you. Todd Hatch, thank you for the support. They say Starbase needs a countdown clock. I think engine check before exposing steering engines to another explosion. I'm not quite sure if I catch that because they're installing the center engines now. But yeah, nice like the Kennedy Space Center countdown clock would be really nice kind of style thing to add to Boca. Maybe like on top of the high bay or mega bay.
I gotcha. Yeah.
Musical Wolves is asking, Artemis use shuttle numbering systems. Chris, does this make any sense to you?
Artemis used shuttle numbering systems. Oh! I get what he's okay. I get what they're saying. Yeah.
Wow, we're like 3 or 4 levels of deep. Let's lay it on
We
us.
are. I'm pretty sure that this is a reference to the STS-41C era of the shuttle program, where the first letter or the first number was the fiscal year the
fiscal
mission
year.
was planned to launch in, not the one it actually did.
Of course.
The second number was the launch site, one indicating Kennedy and two would have indicated Vandenberg. And then the dash letter was the original sequence in the fiscal year at the launch site that it was scheduled to launch in.
I stopped listening.
I'm sure you did. Yeah, I'm sure you did. I'm sure you did.
I tried.
Yeah.
I tried not to, but I every time I try and learn about the shuttle numbering system, I'm just like, I don't like it. My brain starts making like the kind of grinding sound you hear when someone's misusing a manual transmission.
Yep, pretty much that.
But what is Artemis doing anything like that, or are we just
No, Artemis is not going to do anything like that.
Hooray.
Artemis will simply just use the 1, 2, 3, 4, 5 indicators that we've already seen them that we already know they are starting to use from the manifest that we've seen, and the fact that the first one is called Artemis 1.
Cool. All right, let's speed run some questions real quick. We're getting into the later part of the episode. I was almost like we're getting into the business end of the account, right? But I definitely want to answer as many questions as we can here. Conan O'Toole asked this like 20 dozen times. That's right, I said 20 dozen. How will a crewed Starship land? Surely a flip maneuver would be incredibly disorienting. A flip maneuver looks unconventional when you think about like airplanes and stuff, but we've talked about it a little bit on our streams, and It seems like they might not even need a rotating seat or anything. If you think about it, as the ship is belly flopping, if you're in the cabin laying on your back, when the ship does the flip, you end up sitting upright. And it's sort of that seems like a relatively benign maneuver to me, where you're laying on your back and you're slowly rotated and tilted upright. For a long time, I was like, man, a flip maneuver, that'd be crazy. Like, I don't even know. But the more I think about it, the more it looks different than anything that we're used to. But that doesn't necessarily mean it's going to be crazy. I think, if you just lay on your back, it should be fine.
Just launch will be disoriented to me because I get car sick and everything. So. Yeah.
Dramamine. Just take Dramamine. Let's see. Clemens asking, what is our opinion on the new vents on the orbital launch mount? Like the engine chill vents, they look pretty improvised. I don't think they look like necessarily improvised. I think they're just new. I mean, maybe they add some shielding, maybe they change the design a little bit, but they seem functional to me and perfectly fine.
I mean, they kind of look pretty improvised, I guess, because it was like just in the past month, and they do seem to be only to avoid whatever made Booster 7 the explosion on July. I think in some sense they're probably what was the word? I don't remember. Too fast, too junky, I guess.
Let's see. John is asking why, how does the vent go vertical while the rest of the venting flows downward? I'm talking about that new thing, the new vent we were seeing before ship static fires. I think, or I'm purely spitballing here. What if it has something to do with the autogenous pressurization, or just some aspect of engine function, and that vapor ends up being hotter and thus travels upwards, while the rest of the vapor is like cryogenic boil off and condensation, so it's traveling downwards because it's cold. I mean, vapor traveling upwards to me says heat. So I'm
density.
I think it's so much simpler than that.
Go ahead.
Yeah, density.
The vent. No, it's actually more simpler than that.
Okay.
The vent's just pointed upwards.
Well, it's actually, I think it is pointed a little bit downwards, but there's like this thing below it seems to be closing it. So there's like some actuated thing below it. It's some kind of redirecting thing. It's too hard to explain. And I think my theory is that they close it into the vent, and that's what we see. It's like a hose. You put the finger
Huh.
on the end of the hose, and it just
Oh.
spreads out. And so I think what it happens is that because of the shape of that cover, once it covers the vent or partially covers it, it seems like it's basically it spits it out upwards.
Yeah, that makes sense. To me, it was like
Right.
it was a heat related thing, but I'll have to take a closer
Yeah.
look.
We actually saw recently a few pictures from Mary of ship 25 being moved, like the aft end, and you could see these vents have the thing underneath. I don't believe we have that media available, but members, you could go and check that out. There are all the pictures out there.
Outdoors Man Show is asking how many engines were tested in total last week. I think there was 2 engines tested on the booster side, and what was it? 2 on ship.
Yep.
2 on ship, yeah. And
So
yeah, definitely 2 different ones, yeah, on booster.
So 4 engines tested in total last week. At least with a static fire, that is. Alex, do you see the top question in the queue?
Um.
From Owen.
Yeah.
If you want to
Oh,
answer that one in a
that's
little bit, we can do that one. Or if that's a
okay.
lot,
I can do a little bit of
but
math here.
I'll do another thing in the interim while you're doing the math. Benjamin is asking, are there chances for a Starship or booster lift in Florida this year? I feel like if they finish the orbital launch site this year in Florida, that would be going at like breakneck speed. So I would say probably no lift, but I don't know. What do you think, Chris, as someone who lives down there?
I am inclined to agree with that. I don't think we'll get a ship or a booster lift in Florida this year. No.
Yeah, merely getting the orbital launch site at 39A for Starship, like in a mostly complete fashion, resembling anything like what we're looking at right now by the end of the year would be quite remarkable. I mean, they're working on the chopsticks, they're working on the QD, they're rolling out tower sections. We'll talk about more KSC stuff here in a minute. Yeah, that it's hard to say, but I would say no. Okay, Alex, you did the math. I can ask you this question now. Owen is asking, do we know how much fuel the booster? Oh my god, I can't talk. The booster burns through per second. How much fuel does a booster burn a second?
Okay, so I did the math, and they burn 5 tons of methane per second. I did the fuel.
Wow.
Now, the total propellant, because there's also oxygen involved, it's 33 tons per second. I think it's, hold up, now I gotta check it out. 23, not 33, 23. It had a 3 on it. So yeah, 23 tons per second of propellant are consumed.
That's
each second.
That like breaks my brain a little bit. Tons,
not kilograms, tons. 23 tons per second.
That's insane. Wow. I'm glad I asked. Good question from Owen.
That gives, by the way, if you burn the whole booster to depletion, that gives 2 minutes and 36 seconds of burn time. Now, obviously, not all the engines will run 100% thrust all the time, so there's probably going to be a little bit longer burn times. And also, they have to leave a little bit of fuel left over for the boost back burn and landing. But yeah, that kind of gives you an idea of how long the booster burns.
How does that compare to how long Falcon 9 burns?
People are like 23 tons a second. Yes, 23
tons a second. It's a big vehicle. It's huge.
Yeah, if you want to do the math yourself, it's just very simple. You got to do the thrust in tons over the ISP, the specific impulse, in seconds, and that gives you the amount of tons per second that a single Raptor engine consumes, and then you multiply that for 33, and it gives you 23 tons per second. It's rather simple math. It's like just division and multiplication. It's very simple, but you gotta understand how it all happens.
Wow. All right. Super cool. It's 1:15. Do we want to talk about KSC a little bit? Because we just got a question about, if they're going to lift in Kennedy Space Center, and we just put out a flyover a couple days ago.
Yeah.
Yeah.
So yeah, I mean we're waiting. What is the next tower section that's going to roll out? It's going to be tower section 7, if I'm not mistaken.
Yep. Tower section 7, we can see there. All the tower sections and the there we go. We can see
So
there.
on the left, that's 7 and 8, and then on the right is 9. Right? Is that how that works?
Yep. That's 7 and that's actually 6 and 7, and then on the right it's 8 and 9. At the time of the flyover, section 6 was still
That's
there, but
right.
it would roll out later later that day.
Yep.
And then section 7 we expect it to be this week. Still not sure whether it's gonna be this Monday. I was expecting it to be this Monday, but there could always be some kind of rollout delay as always. And then the other two, you can see there are the top sections. You very well explained it all, Jack, on your voiceover and narration of this video. Yeah, and you can see even the 9th section has the beam for the like the reels, the pulleys,
The
for the
drawworks or
chopsticks.
whatever you want to call it. It's
Well,
part
I
of the whole
believe that
the chopsticks
yeah,
lift mechanism.
exactly. The drawworks, I believe, they are on the base
They're
of
at
the
the
rock
bottom. Yeah,
of
you're
the
right.
tower. Yep.
I just wanted to
And
sound smart, okay?
yeah, we saw also the tents there. You can see they are in a different position if you compare those to the previous flyover. That's a little homework for you guys. but yeah, and like I even spotted, like I was kind of helping with the script for this flyover, and you can see some wire reels like on the right here. They are blue. I don't know. It's complicated to actually guess what they are. Right there. But yeah, they've been working, and then you can see also Section 8 already has some scaffolding.
Scaffolding. Yeah.
Yep. So it's probably being ready for a rollout soon.
Yeah, I would expect a little bit more scaffolding to go on
Mm.
like around the tops of each
Yep.
column, but it's being prepared,
It's already.
obviously.
Mhm.
Yeah, exactly. So yeah, I mean that's the little thing we were talking about with that has the spot for the pulleys, and yeah, that's sort of what's going on at Roberts Road and Kennedy Space Center. Sections. There's the my brain. Yeah, there's the wire reels. Are those? Do we think
Yep.
that's like conduit and electrical wiring, or is that like chopsticks cabling?
I'm not sure. It could probably be wiring, just as well as being the cables. But I don't think it's gonna be the cables. I'm thinking that's gonna be installed right there at the pad. It's probably not. It's probably not easier, but it's probably more practical to do it already at the pad because you already have everything installed. Then here we can see the chopsticks are on their side. They seem to be working on the places that the rails are gonna be located on. Then the cutie arm, it's here. It's already without any sort of scaffolding and everything.
Gosh,
So
that's a cute arm.
that, yeah. Then the mega bay, it's
All right.
getting
Let's
the
not do the let's
concrete and
not do the whole
everything.
video because
Yeah,
then people won't watch the video. But there's more.
of course.
There's
There's
more in
more.
the video.
But wait, there's more.
All kinds of stuff going
39A,
on at KSC.
39A. Come on, Patrick, you can do it.
Do we have do we
39A.
want to do 39A or do we want to make people watch the video?
Well, I want to address one thing that wasn't on the narration, by the way, because I totally forgot about writing this down. That
for it.
tank
Go for
there,
it.
people were saying, "Oh, that's a water tank. That's the only thing that we're gonna see." Well, it has a hole. You can see there's a hole in there. That thing is gonna hold water. The water is not gonna be very happy being held in that thing. So you can see right there, there's like a door of sorts right there. And we actually saw via Harry Stranger's very magnificent satellite views that they have different ring uh, sizes. So there's one kind of size that seems to be 18-meter diameter, and then another one that is 20-meter diameter. So we believe this is sort of like inner shell, outer shell kind of tank that we saw at a Starbase used for the cryogenic tanks.
Yeah,
So
it looks
yeah.
like it's double walled, the same as the orbital tank farm
Mhm.
tanks. So hopefully they don't intend for it to be a methane tank because we saw how that went at the orbital tank.
Yeah.
Hopefully it's for LOX or something. I don't know. We'll just have to wait and see kind of what that
Peop-
ends up being for. But
People are
all
saying they're
kinds of
watch
stuff.
anyways. So there you go. very dedicated viewers that we have.
Nice. Peter Shaw, thank you for the support. They say, speaking of thermal protection system, any star bricks fall off during Ship 24 static fires last week? If not, that deserves a confetti emoji, right? I'm not sure. I think maybe a couple did, but I'm not positive. It looks like maybe a couple did, though.
Maybe a couple, yeah.
John Miles, thank you for the support. They say, remember the days when the flip was the crazy idea? Yeah, I do remember those days. Now now the crazy idea is the catch.
And we still have the flip and burn as well. It's the flip and burn do catch, right? Like,
yeah, and also on Mars there'll be the flip and burn, and if they ever do point to point, because I'm so many questions. Like, I know we're looking at a minimum viable product here, but what does point to point look like? Do they only ever fly places where they have a catch tower, or do they end up doing legs finally? So many questions.
I remember when we saw the. Oh well.
Go ahead.
No, I was about to say we saw the Elon showed on the 2019 presentation like a simulation of the flip and everything in the belly flop, and it was actually more stable on the actual real thing than the simulation. You can see in the simulation the Starship was like balancing, like moving side to side and up and down and everything. On the real thing, it was so smooth and everything. It was crazy. The differences. It didn't seem as crazy as we saw it on that render. I think nowadays it's just not that crazy at all.
Jawa, thank you for the generous super chat there and for always coming out and watching the streams and supporting us so much. They say, thank you for all the hard work. Particularly enjoyed listening to the Raptor farts video this morning. Glad you enjoyed it.
Gotta keep it. Yeah.
David, thank you for becoming a Capcom member. Once again, thank you so much to all of our members. We got that question earlier about if we're going to cover Artemis 1, and you better believe we're pulling out all the stops for Artemis 1, and part of us being able to even do that is all the members supporting what we do, all the super chatters, everyone just watching this right now. Thank you, everybody, so much for the support. If you want to support us with the membership program, you can, and you get various awesome, sweet perks. Like, I'm going to throw a couple Star Hoppers into chat right now. We got the members-only emoji. But there is also another way to support us, which is the merch store, which I'm completely throwing at Patrick out of the blue. But we do have the merch store. We do have all kinds of sweet merch that you can support us with. You know, it's like you can support the membership program and get cool perks. You can just do the super chats and we'll say your stuff on air maybe. Or you can do the merch store and get some metal prints, and you get a physical item in return for your support. So all different ways to support us. We are adding more and more metal prints all the time, so definitely check out the merch store. Get a t-shirt, get a metal print. Patrick, go back to the Atlas. I really love that Atlas shot. It's not all Starship on the store, you know. That Atlas arc right there is such a beautiful image from Steven. Super cool image. So yeah, merch store, it's a thing. Check it out, please. And we super duper extra turbo mega appreciate it. Also, there's Starbase merch. Finally have a mouse pad, which makes me happy. Anyways.
Yes.
Varangian, thank you for the support. They say, sorry for being a downer earlier. This is all super awesome. I just think it's important to convey the fact that this is all experimental and early testing. Even Elon expects multiple flights for orbit. Totally. I mean, that's part of the reason why we're all so darn excited by this test program, right? Is because it is a test program. And that kind of imbues the entire thing with an air of like, we don't know what we're going to see next. Like when you watch a Falcon 9 launch, or I guess I should say, when I watch a Falcon 9 launch, pretty much the furthest thing from my mind is that anything is going to fail. It's kind of just like, okay, let's watch this white stick throw things into space. Whereas with Starship, it's like, what are we going to see? We have absolutely no idea, and that is part of this being a test program, part of these vehicles being prototypes. So it's important to convey we could see some failures on these early orbital flight tests, all the way up to a pad fallback or like detonation on the pad, which would be super bad and not great, and would set things back, but it wouldn't be the end of the world. I think we all just really want this progress to go pedal to the metal, and we want to see a rapid expansion of access to space, and we want to see a fully reusable rocket for the first time ever. And so, yeah, it wouldn't be the end of the world, but it would be a setback, and it's completely plausible that it happens. And yeah, very good point, Vrang. I don't even know how to say your name, but good point, and thanks for the support. Thomas, thank you for the support. They say, what do we think they're doing with the Mega Bay roof? Megabar, thinking emoji. I think it's just going to be like office space and whatnot, because right now they're pretty reliant
that's
on the
right, yeah.
Stargate facility, and surely at a certain point they're going to need more space because Stargate isn't that big.
Have offices
also-
for all the paperwork for the FAA. Okay, job
Yeah,
done.
yeah,
job
there
done.
you go.
There you go.
There you go. I
There you
remember
go, yeah.
inside the ground integration facility building, or whatever they call it. It's one of those like low horizontal buildings at Starbase. I remember seeing there was like an office. Basically, it was like it looked like the crew access arm at 39A, but it was like an office structure. And I think they've since moved that somewhere else. But point being, they were kind of sticking offices wherever. So maybe the top of the Mega Bay ends up becoming office space. Yeah, thanks, Patrick. It's at the gun range now at Massey's, which I think SpaceX bought a while back. Jerwa, thank you for gifting 5 Red Team memberships. Super appreciate that, Jerwa. Thank you.
Wow, thank you.
And now we have 5 new members who can experience all the sweet perks that they get. Nate Saunders, thank you for the support. They say, do we know when SpaceX might get their orbital launch license? Question mark?
You want to go first, Chris?
Chris, he did. He said no.
I gave my answer. No.
Okay.
So it's your turn, Alex.
Well, do we know? No. But people are saying, well, why do they keep testing if they don't have the launch license? You know, sometimes they actually go hand in hand. And this is probably going to be a little bit of a long answer, but I don't want it to be long, so I'll be a little bit shorter. When Astra had the return to flight, the what?
No, I still got him.
Yeah, I'm still here. Can you all hear me?
Alex, you're good. Keep going.
Okay, it's just Jack. Yeah. So when Astra had the return to flight on January, because I have had sadly a few return to flights, one of the conditions for the Cape launch that they had was actually to be able to have the first they had an interim launch license that allowed them to be able to static fire the rocket but not launch, and then that got modified later on for a full launch license. And so it seemed to me, and it's actually not the only one. I believe Firefly is also in that situation right now where they're looking at an interim sort of permission to be able to test the rocket prior to a flight, and then once they actually complete all the test milestones, they will have enough data in hand to be able to go to the FAA and say, hey, we want the full launch license and we have all the data that you need. So that always seems to me that is going hand in hand. So they're doing this testing, but this also fits into that launch license. It could be really a thing where all of this test data goes into that, and they're probably going to be merging. Like, it's going to be something that whenever they're ready for an actual flight, they're also going to be ready from a paperwork standpoint. They're going to have everything ready. But still, it could take a little bit of time to be able to approve everything, because it's just a new rocket. It's, orbital with the ship and the booster, all of the explosions that may happen and everything, all the safety considerations. So yeah, I wouldn't be surprised if they just took a long time, even after completing the static fire campaign and everything, just from the standpoint of having a lot of new things going on.
Yeah, that makes sense. Ashley Dozier. Thank you for the support there. They say 1 horse equals 1,000 kilograms. Propellant rate equals 23 horses per second at 23 kilograms a second for a Texas conversion. All right, I'll allow it. I think more importantly, Chris B will allow it. We're gonna have to ask Chris B though if that's an appropriate conversion rate between kilograms and horses. Is a horse really 1,000 pounds? Or 1,000 kilograms?
A horse, 1,000 kilograms? Yeah, probably.
Wow.
Probably about there, yeah.
Shows you how much I know about horses. Jake Winlow, thank you so much for gifting Ted Red Team memberships. That's super generous of you. Thank you. We hope that all of the new members that we just got enjoy the sweet perks that we are providing for you. Always trying to do more for the members. Thank you so much to everybody for coming out and supporting us in that way. Well, it's 3:30 or it's 3:30 local. I think normally this is about where we would wrap up for NASA Spaceflight Live. Do we want to do some more questions? What do you guys? We didn't really talk about this beforehand. We're just going to do it live. What are we thinking here per availability? Do we want to answer some more questions, or does somebody have somewhere they need to be?
We can go a little bit longer, my end.
Sweet.
Yeah, I can be a little bit more. Yeah.
Chris G. Steven is asking, when will there be a good place to watch the launch of Artemis 1? Where will there be a good place?
Yeah. So best place probably to watch Artemis 1 from is the river in Titusville. Along the river in Titusville. Playa Linda Beach will almost certainly not be open, though we're still waiting to hear. But I mean, can almost certainly guarantee you that if people at Kennedy can't be closer than 2 miles, there's no way they're going to let people be 1.5 miles at Playa Linda. So Playa Linda's probably out. So that would leave Titusville as the best area. And I'm going to say Titusville over Jetty Park because if you go to Port Canaveral, you're not going to be able to see the launch pad, and it's going to be about 20 seconds into flight before you will see it. So you will miss the roll program, you will miss turning off the launch pad, and yeah, unfortunately, if you go there, you're not going to see it on the launch pad, and it's going to be about 20 seconds before you see it into flight. Whereas if you go to Titusville, unobstructed views of Launch Pad 39B, unobstructed views of it, good side-on view of the plume as the main engines come up for the 6.5 seconds prior to the solids igniting, and then you will get to see the vast majority of the arc as it heads out. Fair word of warning, though, for those of you who are coming to photograph it and have the perfect shot planned of it going right across the disk of the sun because it's morning and everything's aligned that way. Please be aware the orbital inclination this thing will launch into literally changes second by second as they progress through the 2-hour window. So do not try to plan those really tricky intercept shots unless you absolutely know the exact degree heading that rocket is rolling onto each and every second of the flight, because the 2-hour launch window, if they launch at 8:33, is a 27-degree inclination orbit, and if they launch at the end of it, it's a 35-degree inclination orbit. So it's quite a difference as they go through the day, as they have to basically account for the changing position and relative inclination of the moon to the launch site. So be warned, if you're planning shots, SLS will be tricky.
I don't know how many people were planning the sun encounter shot before, but I bet a bunch are now and hoping that they get it right. I certainly would want to get that shot if I could.
Yeah. And also, I was about to say, that reminds me of Flight Club. I'm not sure if they also include all the potential inclinations. So that's going to be interesting. And the fact that, if you go to plan something like that, it's probably sure that other photographers are also thinking of that. So you're not gonna be alone, probably.
No, which is why I said it. But the point is basically this isn't like a mission to the space station where no matter when in the 5-minute window they launch, it's rolling to the same degree heading, it's going to the same orbital inclination. That's not how you get to the moon. So just visually what you prepare for, it's gonna be different. Yep.
Yeah, I want to do some video remotes, and I'm like having to figure out a way, or I've been trying this over some previous Vandy launches too. Like the remote needs to go for an hour or 2 hours, the entire window, because you don't know when during the window it's going to actually end up going, and it's a whole entire other. But this isn't a routine thing where it's like an instantaneous Falcon 9 Starlink launch or mission to the space station, like you said, where it's going to go at a specific time, or it's not going at all. Like it could go anytime during the 2-hour window, and that adds additional complexity. But good question there. Let's do a couple more questions as we wrap up here. Let's see. Here's Mighty Don Don asking, when testing at McGregor, what is under the Raptor test engine test stand? I assume they mean the tripod because there's multiple test stands. there is a flame bucket, I think is what the terminology for that is. It looks like a big steel, I assume, contraption. It's just like a 90-degree bucket, for lack of a better term, and they chuck a bunch of water into it, and that is what the Raptor tripod fires into. So who knows, maybe they'll make some kind of crazy bucket contraption for the orbital launch mount. But until we see parts and stuff that arrive at Starbase that looks like that, it just seems like there's going to be nothing, at least for the initial flight test or two.
Yeah.
Until they're like, oh, we really need something after all. Westy the Third, I assume B7 is being fitted with more engines. Yep, per an Elon tweet, it's getting its center 17 engines. Jarmo is asking, any updates on the newer boosters and ships? I assume you mean like booster 8 or 9 plus and ship 25 plus. Alex, do you want to touch on these a little bit?
Yeah, just real quick. Booster 8 is on the Mega Bay, getting ready for whatever it's doing. The only problem is they're prioritizing Booster 7. Booster 9, the methane tank is also there on the Mega Bay. On the ship side, we have ship 25, which had the lower tank section stacked, and it is ready at the high bay. And then the nose cone section was stacked today on the payload bay section. On the high bay, you can probably rewind on SPL and look that out. And yeah, we're only waiting on the forward dome to be stacked below the payload bay, and then once that's complete, then they'll fully stack. Yeah, you can see there, the crane at the high bay is already attached to the nose cone with the payload bay below. And yeah, it only lacks the forward dome, which will be stacked right below that. And you can see to the immediately left to that, you can see the lower tank section. Then they'll stack everything, and you'll have ship 25 complete. Well, complete, at least the major structures. They need flaps and the engines and whatever. Like, we don't know what the test campaign for ship 25 will look like, but it will probably follow a similar thing as ship 24. On the
I just hope they end up
future
actually
vehicles,
testing it, because I hope it doesn't end up being like a ship 22 or a ship 16 or something like that, where it just doesn't get. Also, Chad is saying I said inner 17 engines. I must have broken my brain for a second there. Inner 13. Inner 13. If I said 17, I have no idea why I said that. That makes no sense.
Yeah, and then ship 26. I think we've seen some parts of that also, and trying to remember. Yeah, we've seen parts for ship 27. We saw a downcomer coming recently that had S27 labeled on it.
Did you just say
ship
downcomer,
24,
not transfer tube?
transfer tube. Okay. It was more like sump and transfer tube combination. But yeah, we've also seen recently like ship 28. Also parts for that, a dome, one of the new domes, which had SN28 written on it, which was hilarious because it's like, okay, SN28, sometimes it's S, sometimes it's SN. But yeah, it's one of the newer domes. So at least ship 28, excuse me, is gonna have the new dome design, which is cool. Still haven't done anything with the E-dome test tank out there.
Which is like, yeah, how are they comfortable enough to throw an elliptical dome on an actual ship when they haven't even tested the elliptical dome test tank? Yeah, it's kind of crazy.
Yeah, I guess they can
I
do another test. Yeah.
That's kind of where we're at. We've been hearing some interesting things about, I will say, the later ships in the 20 series and how they might end up looking vastly different.
Spoiler
we'll have to wait and see what happens there.
Yeah.
But yeah, some very, very interesting stuff coming potentially with like ship 26 and beyond. Don't expect them to look the same, is what I'll say.
Yeah, they're gonna be changing.
So yeah, I think that's about it. What can we expect for the next like week or so of Starbase and testing? I mean, if you ask me, it seems like they're going to roll Booster 7 back out and do some more engine testing on it Also, probably some more engine testing with the ship. Do either of you disagree as our final question and answer? Alex, go first.
I was just sharing a GIF on the back channels. The there's like this GIF of a bunch of people like one of us. Well, that's me, but like static fires, static fires, static fires. Yeah, I want static fires, more of them. I don't know what's gonna happen, but I do wish we can see some static fires. Maybe booster 7 or ship 24. Let's see what happens.
Chris?
I say ship 24 firings and engine install and stuff on the booster. That's what I'm going for.
Yep, sounds good to me. I would not disagree. All right, well, I know we didn't get to all the questions. There's so many questions, and some especially good ones this week, but always feel free to ask us questions either on SBL or ask us on Twitter or come out during our next... I mean, we're surely going to have a bunch of live streams this week, so... Yeah, but yeah, thank you to everybody for watching. Thank you to all of our new members this week. Also, I definitely want to thank our launch director and flight engineer level members who, as part of their perks at the higher end of our membership program, get the little end card at the end of our NASA Spaceflight Live episodes. But, wait a second. We need that end card. Okay, well, how about one more question while we're getting that end card up? Because we definitely want to thank our members, especially the launch directors and flight engineers who are at the higher end of support there.
Yeah.
All right, final bonus round question. Greg Hawk is asking, does SpaceX need to finish all actions from the PEA to get a launch license, or do they just have to be working towards those goals? Alex, go first.
Well, I think they probably need to finish everything before they can get even a launch approval. Will likely need all that confirmed.
Yeah,
Yep.
there was how many mitigations were there? I forget the exact number.
We're just over 75.
70 something.
But the important thing with that, because it's kind of a tricky thing to do, or a tricky thing to answer, is it's yes and no, right? Like, do they have to have every single one of them ticked off? No, because if you end up launching outside of sea turtle season, they're not going to hold you to all of the sea turtle stuff. They're already doing all of that to begin with too. So some of the things too, in that we're like, they will give tours of the facility to school children. Well, they're not going to say, well, you can't launch until school's back in session. They're not going to say that.
Yeah.
So it's a little bit tricky to answer with a sheer yes and a sheer no. It kind of comes down to what time of year they are, and then just making sure they're compliant with everything up to that point.
Yep, that makes sense. J Trains is asking, when do we think Booster 7 will roll back to the pad? I'm thinking Monday or Tuesday. I agree, but who knows? Maybe it'll take longer than that. Alex?
Oh boy. Sometime next week.
Chris?
Sometime in the next week.
All right. Is sometime in the next week the NASA spaceflight version of 2 weeks?
No, I wouldn't go with 2 weeks. No.
Like, why did the back to Total Recall? Why did the face suit thing? Why did it glitch out? Like, why couldn't he just say 2 weeks? Like, you'd think he would have better disguise technology. Okay. Anyways.
Oh, I can almost guarantee you what happened. A network executive gave a note that said, "We need to drag this out longer."
Loodles is asking me, the Baconator Beyer, if the chopsticks are fixed. We saw them move up and down since the hydraulic failure, but I don't think we've seen them move side to side yet, right?
We actually have seen yesterday. They were moved to one side.
All right then. Well, either fixed or in the process of being fixed. Beep 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 beep. Ghost Dragon is asking, is there any other way to practice booster landing other than directly catch it?
Simulations, my friend. Simulations.
Yeah, that's exactly what they're going to do, or at least at one point what the plan was for the booster was to do a soft landing in the Gulf and basically simulate a landing at a point where there was no catch tower there, but if there was a catch tower, it would be doing all the same things. So Yeah, either simulation on a computer or real world simulation during launch is one thing they can do. Let's see. Family is asking, how many Raptors do you think they will static fire at once? I'm going to say they'll do 33 at some point. I've heard different things, whether they would do 33 or not, and both make sense to me. I'm just hoping for a 33 engine static fire. Alex, how many do you think they'll fire at once?
Hey, man, I think they're gonna be going for 33 at one point. Actually, even more than once on the same booster.
All right, Chris. I'm putting Chris on the spot. I'm putting you on the spot. How many? How many do you think they'll static fire?
I've already kind of said this answer earlier. 20. I don't think you can do more than that without sticking a fully fueled ship on top of it, and I really hesitate as to whether or not they can do 33.
Yeah, I've heard similar. So we'll see what happens. Maybe they have a way that we just haven't thought of yet, or maybe that just won't happen, or maybe it will happen, but there'll have to be a ship on top. Who knows? Isaac is asking, should we expect to see a full duration static fire of one or more engines on the booster or ship? I know that wouldn't be possible with all because of the thrust produced, kind of like we were just talking about. I think McGregor, their test facility in McGregor, shout out to McGregor Live, our 24/7 live stream of SpaceX's engine testing facility in McGregor, Texas. McGregor is where full duration fires are done, or that's what McGregor is for. I don't think any of these launch pads are built to sustain like a 2-minute firing directly into the concrete.
Yeah, we've seen about McGregor like 6-minute static fire tests of Raptors, which is crazy.
Yeah, so yeah, I mean that's like I said, that's what McGregor's for. I don't expect to see that stuff at Starbase with engines on these vehicles, like just firing into the concrete, like bah, for like 5 minutes. That is the sound it would make, by the way. Okay, I think we're ready. I think we're ready to show the card that thanks our launch director members and our flight engineer members. Thank you so much to all of you. I mean, I can't get over how many launch directors and flight engineers we have. Thank you so much, so much to all of our members.
Wow.
But with that, I think.
I mean, look at all those names. It's incredible. Thank you. The trust and the faith you put in us is truly wonderful. We really do appreciate it.
Yep, and if I made this joke many times that we need like a high frequency burst, with someone just reading out all the names really quick in like a like 50th of a second. It's like rap. But yeah, thank you. It's awesome that we have so many members at that level. It's a huge support to what we do, and yeah, I think with that we will wrap it up. That was an episode of NASA Spaceflight Live. We hope you all enjoyed it. Alex, thanks for joining us on this one.
Always pleasure.
Chris, also thanks for joining us on this one.
Wouldn't be anywhere else.
Cool. And with that, we will call it a day. Thanks everybody for watching, and we'll see you later.
Propulsion continues to be normal.
Chamber pressure looks good. Doubling up. Roger, Atlantis.
Water towers can fly! Yes!
Tango Delta nominal.
Flight downside SC off. Say again, SC off.
Yikes. You bet. Concur. We don't need any more of these.